Three. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Victory Life Legacy Podcast. I'm your host, Dwight Vick, from Virginia Tech, all-conference captain, old school to OG, with my other co-host, Danny Nokes. It's been a while, man. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, my man. It's great to be back together, though, and no better time of year. Maybe actually the second best time of year, because I guess that time in October when we have the crossover between the second month of football season and baseball season, the end of baseball season, that is the beginning of hoops and whatnot. But hey, March Madness, that ain't a bad time to chop it up either.
This is the most wonderful time of the year, along like as you mentioned with October, when you have all the sports playing. And we are going to speak on some great moments that you and I experienced as fans and alumni with our Hokies in a second. But just really excited about what we're going to witness these next 3 weeks with college basketball. It's crazy because it's an emotional time. I played sports, you covered sports, you played sports in high school, so we've all been seniors. So for a lot of these guys playing, and women, these next 3 weeks are going to be the epitome of euphoria and also sadness, because it's an abrupt ending. You know, game winners, buzzer beaters, fouling out, your season's over. The closure in sports at this level in college basketball, men's and women's, is abrupt. You know, when you're a pro athlete, it goes on and on and on. You kind of have a contract, you're getting paid. But high school and college, when you're a senior and it's that last chance and it's over, only one team can win. Only one team will stand tall. So I think that's why it's so great, so compelling, because these mid-majors play so hard, and you're starting to see, you know, better matchups. I think last I checked, Kentucky was struggling. So you just never know, right? Yeah. But let's talk about it, man. You and I were texting as we prep for this show. We haven't done this show. For those that know us, we are also, I'm the co-host with Mike Vick, my cousin, the Vic 757 show, talking all things tech. And Danny jumps on and does his Nokes. And then I jump on with Danny when he comes up to the DMV and he does his 1067 the fan show, and I jump on. So Danny and I do everything together. And we took a break from this podcast. We're back on to give you guys some food for thought, especially for our Hokie fans out there, man. So D, we got it done, man. A historical run for Mike Young and company, man. It was last Saturday night, man. It just felt, I can't even really verbalize how it was, man. I didn't even text you, man, because my phone was blowing up. I was sitting there with my wife, and I look on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, Snapchat, and every social media outlet. Hokie Nation took over. My only regret is I couldn't be with more people that enjoyed that win. And I just, for the record, those that know, you know, I was born at Duke. I follow Duke. I rock with Duke, but don't ever get it twisted. I'm a Hokie, and I was cheering for Tech, and it was I had a feeling they were going to smoke Duke, especially when I saw Tech run through Carolina, because Carolina was one of the hottest teams in the country. And Mike Young, man, I mean, I know he has an assistant. He has assistant, excuse me. Shout out to my guy Ace Custis. If you've seen the video with him riding on the bus holding the trophy, it's just amazing, man. And then my guy, shout out to Bruce Garnes, who's been at Virginia Tech since 1988. He's been everywhere. He was, his picture was floating around as he was in bed with the ACC trophy knocked out. I mean, D, they were 2-7 to start the season in conference play. 2-7, even though, to be fair, the media picked them to be in the running in the top 4 of the conference, along with Duke and Carolina and company.
Right.
And they showed out, man. You know, what did you think?
I thought it was just an absolutely amazing magic carpet ride that, by the way, I don't think is over just yet. You know, we're going to, at the time that we're recording this podcast on St. Patrick's Day, right, the Thursday night, just not even 24 hours before Virginia Tech is going to play their NCAA tournament game against Texas. So it's not over yet, but it has been an incredible magic carpet ride. And, you know, it harkens back to some experiences that I've had more recently that I've actually never had got to have before. I mean, you know, you look behind me at the Washington Capitals made their run. The Nats are back there too. There's just nothing like watching your team make a run when you don't expect it. And maybe you expected it with the Capitals there, but for this Virginia Tech team to come out, like you said, start the year 2-7, And there are so many different crazy things that you could point to where you would have never expected this team to be where they are at this point in the season. And I think what's even crazier to think about is they lost their regular season finale to Clemson, right? Close game, 4-point game, incredibly frustrating game too. Then they flip it around, and honestly, Clemson probably outplayed them for the most part in that for the second round of the ACC tournament. Tech got the bye. Only the first 4 teams ended up having to play. But if it weren't for Darius Maddox, who has just absolute ice in his veins, I mean, you know, we wouldn't be talking about this right now. But you know, sometimes that's all it takes for a team in March, and that is just the absolute beauty of this sport and this level of the sport in particular. But there's so much credit that's due to so many different people, Dwight. Like you mentioned some of the guys that have been with the program for a really long time. I'll just shout out some of the players that have really stepped up. And you know, I really look at Storm Murphy as somebody that has grown a lot. He's grown a lot this year. And really, as a 5th-year senior, a graduate transfer from Wofford, that's what they needed from him. And we didn't necessarily see that all year. Not that he's been bad, because I don't think he's been bad. He's maybe had a couple of bad games, specifically when it comes to turnovers, but he's locked it up recently, man. And he has also just been a stalwart down the stretch. He was big in the ACC Championship against Duke. He's come up big time in a bunch of other spots. And another guy, Justin Mutz, definitely the best athlete that they've got. He is just an absolute freak, and they need him on the glass. He's going to be a big cog in whether or not they win or lose tomorrow night against Texas, because they're going to need him on the glass. He's their best rebounder. But man, he came up with so many high energy plays. He was great on defense. You know, he struggles at the free throw line sometimes, but they just stepping up in big spots. That's what March is all about, man. And the Hokies have done it. And I just want to see him keep doing it. So we'll see if they can keep the magic going. But Mike Young is a guy that he has a lot of NCAA tournament experience. This is exactly what you want if you're a Hokie fan.
Oh man, no question, man. First of all, what's my guy's name that went crazy? He went ham.
Couture. Yeah.
Bruh, he was cooking. He set the tone. And you know, let me just say this right now, because I did a podcast like last night. I was a host on the Boundary Corner podcast. I was their premier guest. Shout out to those guys, man. Curtis and Brian, man. They had me on. We were on there for 2 hours talking everything, talking all things tech and everything. But you know, they were talking about recruiting and how, you know, Mike Young and those guys have a phenomenal class coming in, and they're going to probably steal a guy that's in the top 100. I shouldn't say still flip him or whatever. I don't know. But let me just say this, because I used to work for 247 Sports and Rival, more so covering football. But as we discussed before we hit record and did this, my son is a talented player, sophomore. And I always tell him that, you know, when it comes to rankings and you know, different guys at VCU, Duke, Carolina, Maryland, and this guy's on this circuit, this guy's ranked, and this player's this. At the end of the day, when you get to D1 or whatever level you play at, when the lights come on, it's about competition, man. A lot of these guys ranking these players, because Duke has, 5 future pros. Carolina's got Baycott, who I saw play in high school at Trinity. He was great in high school. He played with a guy named Jason Wade, who's at ODU. Shout out to Jason Wade, just recovering from an injury. And he also played with Hank Coleman's son, Cynthia Coleman's son, who I played with his dad. They were all on the same team. They played high school ball together. And Baycott is going pro, you know, and Carolina, you know, they look pedestrian against Virginia Tech. They had great guards. Couture and Storm Murphy were cooking them. You know, those guys are players too. And I was ranked coming out of high school. I was All-State, All-American, 4th in the nation. But looking back then and even now, I'm proud of those accomplishments. But the rankings and all this, and when the lights come on, you see in the tournament, man, there are ballers everywhere. And let me just say this too. Mike Young was in his bag coaching. I am a coaching aficionado. I am a coaching fan. People say, man, I watch you at games. You don't say much, because I'm taking it all in. What is that word? The ambiance. I'm taking everything in, bro. When I look at Mike Young and other great coaches, whatever the sport is, especially team sports, he was killing them. And I say Young, in the half-court sets with the stuff he was calling, getting Couture looks, getting Storm Murphy, killing Duke in the pick and roll, killing they were getting the kid who's the defensive player of the year, Mark Williams. Shout out to him, who is a great rim protector. He made himself some money this year. He was coming on strong last year for Duke. They caught him in pick and rolls, and he looked lost in the sauce. I mean, because he couldn't defend. He was out in space, and he'd rather be down low. And that was a genius move. He also, Mike Young, called a lot of screens on the baseline, pin down screens and things like that, where Couture and Storm Murphy were able to either get a shot, drive and penetrate, and kick out, or dump it off. And Banchero and those guys, they were tired. And it wasn't so much they were tired because K shortened the bench. They were tired because they couldn't handle the guard play. I'm sure you saw the video when Storm Murphy crossed the living daylights out of my man Trevor Keels.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He shook him.
Yeah, he shook him. I mean,
he shook him.
Everyone's going to get crossed. Everyone's going to get dunked on eventually. It's going to happen to everybody. But in that moment, the thing I was most impressed with, and this is not X's and O's, this is not anything, groundbreaking, but when the light shined the brightest, it was Virginia Tech in the ACC tournament that outlasted and played better than anybody. Yes, they had a game winner against Clemson, but we all know that's basketball. And that was also genius because he didn't call the timeout, he being Mike Young. They came down there, bang, hit it. And they didn't hesitate. And I love when coaches say, you know what, you guys have been here. We win, we lose, we're going to NIT. And you gotta love that. And I have already labeled Virginia Tech. I know we're going to post this right here tomorrow morning so people can watch or listen. But at the same time, my hope and my feeling is I've labeled Virginia Tech as a team you don't want to play right now. There are about 5 to 7 teams in the tournament every year. Doesn't mean they're going to win it all, but there are teams you've seen this every year. I've been watching the tournament for 30-something years. And you see teams, you're like, man, they just got hot at the right time. And Tech is that team. They're hot at the right time. You see it in all sports, man. And Texas, I don't know. What are your thoughts about that matchup, man?
Well, I tell you what, we saw from the instant video reaction that some Longhorns aren't exactly loving the fact that they have to go up against Virginia Tech. They understand what you were saying. They're Virginia Tech is just not a team that you want to play against right now. And not having watched a lot of Texas games this year, I don't think that this is a great matchup for the Longhorns, certainly, and the Hokies are an interesting ball club because they do rely a lot on the 3-point shot. They need their shots to fall to be successful. And that's certainly going to carry into the tournament. And that's why I labeled them a little bit streaky, but now we're kind of seeing the good side of that. And really for the second half of the season, we've been seeing that. I mean, they have absolutely turned it on really for the last 2.5 months. I mean, they've lost a couple of games here and there. They lost to North Carolina also at some point early in February, I believe it was. And but they've really never been absolutely blown out. The game that they really got blown out the most in was probably the Wake Forest game. If you think about it, way back, it was their very first ACC game, actually before the turn of the new year. And so they've grown a lot. We talked about Storm Murphy's development, and this is a team that's already mostly been to the NCAA tournament before, so they're going to rely a lot on that experience, as they should in a moment like this. And if you can get Hunter Couture going early, I mean, that never hurts, does it? That helped a lot in that Duke game, and you just kind of punched Duke in the mouth and they were off balance for the rest of the game. Virginia Tech obviously cooled off a little bit in the second half, but the Hokies never trailed. They certainly never looked like they weren't in control of that game. And you mentioned North Carolina, who they dispatched by 13 points not even a week ago. That North Carolina team just went out today and beat the absolute doors off of Shaka Smart's Marquette Golden Eagles. I mean, they destroyed them. That could have been a 40-point game. So, North Carolina is a good basketball team too. And Virginia Tech just beat them not even a week ago. So they're Virginia Tech can beat anybody in the country right now. There's no doubt about it. Chris Mad Dog Russo, he's been with MLB Network more recently, but he's, famous for Mike and the Mad Dog in New York City.
Always yelling.
Always yelling. But he had Virginia Tech in his Final Four. And, you know, he did. He had Virginia Tech. The 11th seed in his Final Four. I kid you not. Yeah, I think that's definitely bold, but I mean, why not? In a season where Virginia Tech won their first ACC men's tournament basketball championship, why not?
Well, look, let me just say this. I said what because that's the sign of a program and a brand growing. A brand. I'm big on
Hmm.
branding, obviously, with Victory Life and all the different things I'm involved in. And I think that's amazing because I think when you have a program like Virginia Tech that's been to the tournament 5 straight years, they've established themselves. Shout out to Buzz Williams. I know you either love him or hate him. I'm a big fan of his coaching and his just ability to build programs. He set the tone. You know, Seth Greenberg gave us some moments, but Seth couldn't really get over the hump and get us in the tournament, even though I think 2 years he got screwed. There were 2 years his team should have been in, but I think
No doubt.
sometimes that was more so about Seth. I don't think he's very well liked by a lot of people, and that does play a part. We've touched on that, and we touch more on that in the football season when it comes to guys like the head coach down in North Carolina, man. What's his name? Uh, Gosh, I'm having a blank.
Hubert
The
Davis
no, the head coach, the football coach
in North
that gets the
Carolina.
pass. Yeah, the football coach.
Mac
Yeah,
Mac Brown.
Mac
Sorry.
Brown. He gets the
Yeah.
pass. But with that being said, Virginia Tech's brand has grown. The fact that you have people picking them in the Final Four, the fact that the ACC is still a very good conference. In many years, it's the toughest conference. I do think sometimes that's more so opinion based because you see Carolina and what they're doing, and you know if Duke goes on and Tech and these other schools, then everybody says, "Oh, they actually were a great conference." But the point I'm getting at is this: is that Virginia Tech now has established itself as one of the better basketball programs in the ACC. And I'm gonna say something very profound right now. And I'm not doing this for a hot take, and I'm just saying this right now on our show. I said this last night, but I'm gonna say it again because we'll have even more eyes on this. Virginia Tech and Mike Young have put themselves in a position where I think they're very close to winning the national championship. I really feel like the year Buzz last year when Justin Robinson and company and Alexander and those guys took Duke to the limit. And that Duke team featured a bunch of pros that was favored to win it all. Of course, that Duke team lost the following game to Michigan State. But Virginia Tech had to lay up at the end that would have tied the game and they would have went to overtime. I think playing in DC up there where you're from where I live,
I was
it would
at
have
that
been
game.
yeah. I think if he makes that layup, Tech wins in overtime. I
Yep.
think the next game they beat Michigan State.
Hmm.
And I feel like those moments prepare you for now, where now you just won the ACC tournament, and it was not a fluke. And I think if you look at UVA, and I have a lot of respect for Tony Bennett, it wasn't too long ago they were doing the same thing. And I said to my wife and a lot of my friends, UVA is close. I was kind of concerned about their style because they just go in these offensive funks, but the program and momentum he had, even though they lost that 16 seed, first time in history, those guys were all in, and he built something with the recruiting and the players. I think a similar thing is happening with Mike Young. I feel like if they can make a run this year, in the class they have coming in, the fact that Kay is leaving, Josh Shire will do a good job because Duke recruits itself. Hubert Davis is Carolina, similar situation. But other than that, Leonard Hamilton, a lot of respect for him, but Florida State, Tech just beat them for the first time in years down there. The ACC will always be a gauntlet. But because of that, and because you have Young, who's going to be there for the foreseeable future and has a great recruiting staff, and now Virginia Tech basketball has a brand, it's known and respected. That's all you need to make a run. Keep in mind, I was at Tech in 98. The following year, they went to the national championship in 99. I said the same thing to many reporters back then. And people looked at me like I was smoking crystal meth. But what I'm telling you is, I said the same thing with Mike Young. I'm saying it right now. And when they do this, I'm going to play this clip back because I feel adamant that they're very close to playing for a national championship. And that means getting to a Final Four. It's you again, and it could happen this year. That's the beauty of it. They could get hot because they're already hot and get hot and beat Texas and beat Purdue if Purdue wins. Now you
Yep.
win a Sweet 16.
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean,
I
so
know.
again, I just wanted to touch on that and put that out there, man.
And I'm right there with you. I'm feeling that enthusiasm and trust me, it feels like Virginia Tech is not just going to be a team that was hot. They're going to stay hot. It really has that type of feel. But you go back to what you were saying about Mike Young, and I'm going to break it down too simple at first and then elaborate on it a little bit more. But there's a cliche that we always use, I feel like, in sports talk, and it's whether or not not that a guy has it factor, but whether a guy's a good fit. Although having it factor is also something that we can talk about too, because I think a lot of the guys on that team and in that program do have that. But we talk so much about fit. What is fit? How does a guy fit with the program? Mike Young is the perfect fit for Virginia Tech. I mean, he just radiates Southwest Virginia. It's fantastic, right? From his personality to the way that he coaches, his coaching style, and it's not like Buzz Williams players didn't love him, because we know that they did. We know that Buzz's players loved him even when he was here at Virginia Tech, and I'm sure his players love him over there at Texas A&M. Even though he's going in front of the press now after they're winning NIT games and pleading his case to the NCAA. And by the way, everybody else is onto the fact that he loves to just pontificate and listen to himself talk for as long as possible, because they have timers now on ESPN on the screen for how long his post-game press conferences are going. They're onto it too. But I digress. Mike Young has I always go back to Buzz, because I was one of the people that said he is going to leave as soon as he gets an opportunity. He was never about being at Virginia Tech. It was a stepping stone for him. And that's fine, right? It's a business at the end of the day. It's more so fairly a business now that the players actually have the chance to profit off their own name and likeness, unlike they didn't before. But Buzz was always, I go back to this one instance. It's really all I feel like anybody needs to know, right? It's when Kyle Bailey and I were doing it was his last show. And Buzz Williams was one of his last guests, and Kyle asked him flat out, "Are you looking at the Oklahoma State job? Have you been in contact with them?" And his answer was, I'm paraphrasing, basically, "I'm always going to do what's best for my family." And totally respectable non-answer. And of course, you should always do what's best for your family. But that should tell you right there that he didn't come out and say, "No, I'm committed to Virginia Tech," that he was never going to be around for the long run. Now, he had incredible success here, but Mike Young is the type of guy that feels like he could be the program, kind of like Frank Beamer was. And I don't know, I don't know that Mike Young is going to be here for, 27 years like Frank Beamer was, but he certainly has had an immediate impact. I mean, you think about what was left after Buzz went to Texas A&M. I mean, they didn't exactly have a roster full of talent, and Mike Young has had him in the NCAA tournament multiple times now.
No doubt.
So I'm just incredibly, incredibly impressed with the way that he's brought this program right back to where it was. And just a couple of years ago in the Sweet 16 in 2019, and darn near got a little bit closer, and probably should have, like you said, but it just makes it that much more exciting. You mentioned the Purdue possibility if both Virginia Tech and Purdue get through their first round games here coming up tomorrow night. It seems like it would be a much tougher matchup than Texas will be. And I don't mean to write off the Longhorns, by the way, because I think that game is obviously going to take everything Virginia Tech's got. Chris Beard is their head coach now, Dwight, the former Texas Tech head coach.
Yeah. No,
so,
go ahead. I was just saying, yeah.
They're gonna be very well coached, and obviously they have a lot of talent down there, but so does Virginia Tech. And I keep asking the question, why not? Why not us? Why not this year? And it just comes down for Virginia Tech. I think it's going to come down to, how early in the game you start knocking those shots down. And it feels like it always comes down to, and this was kind of the when Buzz was here, it was a similar style. There are obviously intricacies that are different, but can you knock your shots down and don't get crushed on the boards? Because they're not a particularly big team, but Mutz is incredibly athletic. He's certainly big enough. He gets a lot of rebounds, and then they need a Luma to get involved, mix it up a little bit down there.
Yeah, but they Duke is huge.
I know.
They got Griffin, who's 6'6". They got young Moore, who's a 6'5" guard. Trevor Keels is 6'5". Mark Williams is a 7-footer, and then of course Banchero looks like he should be playing tight end. He's 6'10", 250.
He's a beast.
They were, again, rebounding is about effort, man. I know Charles Barkley is basically not the standard, but him and guys like Draymond Green has showed you. It's effort. Dennis
Yeah.
Rodman, it's effort. And
Hmm.
again, just to chime in on your point about Purdue, I watched Purdue a lot this year. That's a damn good team.
Yeah.
But I'm not, I just think when you beat Notre Dame, you beat Duke and Carolina, who have size, especially Carolina and Duke with Baycott and then Duke we just mentioned. And you can play Purdue. You can beat Purdue. I think the Big Ten was good this year. I think you saw that today with Michigan, who throttled a very good Colorado State team. I
Yeah, they
just feel
came back
like
to win that.
yeah, they look great. I watched that game. Should have been doing some work, but anyway,
Hmm.
yeah, we'll see.
Hey, me,
Yeah.
that's all of us today, right? That was all of us today. And when I talk about the Tech rebounding, I really just mean in their losses, because you're right. They did what they needed to do against Duke. They did.
Mhm,
They were
mhm.
crashing the boards against the Blue Devils. I look at games like the first North Carolina matchup that they actually ended up losing. That was a game where they weren't as crisp on the boards. But again, they're a team that's grown and they've learned a lot. And I think they're just going to turn it loose, man. I can't wait to watch them go out and play Texas.
Yeah, I just wanna just see them keep it going, man. I'm loving it, and I feel like Mike Young is building something extremely special. We're gonna look back and say, this is crazy, man. And speaking of great coaches, a guy that's really building a great program as well in Blacksburg is Kenny Brooks.
Yes, sir.
Kenny is the girls have been great. He had the player of the year. Um, I've watched the girls a lot. If you know, you probably do because you and I were friends. You also follow what I do. We do stuff together.
Mhm.
Jenny Root Price was on my podcast, Victory Life Legacy Spotlight. JC Price's wife. She is also in the Virginia Tech Sports Hall of Fame for women's basketball, and she's one of the best ever play at Virginia Tech. And she knew Kenny when JC was at JMU. So they're friends,
Mm.
and she goes to the program, and she told me on her Legacy Spotlight when I interviewed her that she felt like they were going to make a run, and they have been hot. And I just want everybody watching and listening, especially if you got that orange and maroon in your blood, make sure you support the women too. Women's basketball, I've always watched, going back to my days of living in collegiate suites and Foxridge apartments. I've always watched women's basketball. My homie Aaron Foster, he told my son one time, if you really want to enjoy the game and learn how the game should be played, watch women's basketball. But Kenny Brooks is doing a heck of a job with that ladies team, man. Came in, same deal like Mike Young. I mean, and look how great they're doing, man. What seed did they get? I don't have it in front of me. What seed did they get?
I
Um,
want to say they're a 4 seed. We'll have to double check that, because I'm looking right now just at their schedule and the
mhm,
23-9 regular season record, 13-5, and a
mhm.
pretty good run there in the ACC tournament. NC State is very good, so it's
Very
certain.
good.
Yeah,
Very good.
it's no shame that they didn't end up going on to win the ACC tournament, because Virginia Tech is still a very good basketball team. And Elizabeth
Mhm.
Kitley has been an absolute stud this year. All sorts of accolades and honors for her that she absolutely deserves. I'm so happy for them. So happy for Kenny Brooks. I remember being at his introductory press conference when I was still actually working in Blacksburg, and it was incredibly exciting and kind of surprising that someone like Kenny Brooks, who had been to the NCAA tournament multiple times when he was the head coach at JMU, left his alma
Mhm.
mater to come here to Blacksburg for a new opportunity. And that was
Mhm.
kind of what he talked about too. And I remember in that introductory press conference, and they have ascended quickly. They've been
Yes.
competitive pretty much every single year that he's been here. And Dennis Wolf was the head coach before Kenny Brooks got here, and some of his teams were not competitive in the ACC. And it's a shame, because I think of players like Vanessa Panusis, who, um, uh, uh, you know, Australian point guard was really good and logged a lot of games for the Hokies, but played on some of those teams that finished towards the bottom of the ACC. Now they're another force to be reckoned with, and you mentioned supporting them, making sure you watch the game tomorrow. I believe they're on at 2:30, whereas the men play at 4:30. So it's the
Perfect.
perfect. Your
Perfect.
afternoon is planned. You've got the women playing at 2:30, and you've got the men playing at 4:30. Let's go Hokies.
No doubt, man. Like, yo, um, Kenny can coach too. If I'm gonna give praise Mike Young, Kenny can coach. I watched the girls play, and they beat Carolina. They beat some blue bloods in the programs in the women's basketball games, and they got some great players on that team. And they play hard. And like you mentioned, I was going to say NC State. They just couldn't get over that hump, but NC State is loaded, and they're going to be in the mix too. You know,
So,
Sometimes,
by the way,
go ahead.
the women are a 5 seed. They're the
5 seed,
5-12 game Florida
5
Gulf
seed.
Coast.
Okay. And again,
Yeah.
I mean, we know how that goes, 12-5. I don't really know the history with the 12-5 in the women's game, but I just know that one thing about women's game I've learned over the years, you have a few upsets, but typically the chalk rises.
Hmm.
That's why you always see the South Carolinas and the Tennessees during their time, the UConn women,
Right.
Stanford. But at the same time, the G and Tech women's basketball, man, again, it is just a side note. I know we normally talk about the NFL, we talk about, the Big Ten and other sports and other we're not a tech podcast,
That's true.
but
Right.
but we are going to be orange and maroon today right now because wrestling is killing it. Softball is killing it. Men's and women's track and field just won the conferences. We had 3 national champions in track and field. It's hey man, we're gonna pop our collar a little bit right now, man. We can. And I had a little passive aggressive post on Facebook, throwing shots saying, oh, I guess this is not too bad for a football school
Right.
because yes, football will always be the foundation. It will always be the sport at Tech. But don't get it twisted, man. We're doing great things right now. Our wrestling program the last decade has been on fire, and I'm a big fan of Kenny Brooks, man. I've tagged him on stuff on Facebook. I'm trying to work on something to get him on one of my legacy spotlights, or even get him on here with me and you. Um, just having some more guests to share their story. Kenny is a great guy, man, great coach.
He
I'm
is.
friends. I have a mutual friend. His name is Cliff Gorham. He trains my son sometimes. And he told me when Tech hired him, he was like, watch how well that program goes. Watch how far they go. Well, I mean, and he prophesied it. And so make sure if you listen to this or you watching this right now, the girls play Friday at 2:30. Check them out. Make sure you support them. Both the
You
men's and women's team.
They're playing in College Park too, so not too far from
That's
Northern
right.
Virginia.
That's right. That's right. Because
Yeah.
my people in the group chat were like, College Park, and I promise you, if I didn't have some stuff to do, even though I loathe Maryland, I would
Yeah,
go.
it's tough to get over there, man,
Yeah.
especially from where you're at.
Yeah, I don't mind going to Maryland. I got clients, I used to work in DC for years at Blue, and I got clients in Alexandria. I've been in Maryland for AAU tournaments, but going on a Friday when daylight saving time is nice outside and
Hmm.
metro traffic, I'm not trying to be sitting on the beltway for 2 hours, man. So I'll just probably put it up on my phone or the TV, depending on where I'm at. But yeah, that's actually a great location. There'll be a lot of Tech fans there. It's a
Oh
great,
yeah.
great, great, great day. Great day, man. Hopefully we can go 2-0.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of great days, man, 2 of our guys had a great payday. We had Tim
Yeah,
Settle and
that's right.
Tyrod Taylor. Tim Settle and Tyrod Taylor. Now I know you a Washington football guy. We'll start with Tim. I felt like number one, I posted on Twitter before we hit record on this show a picture of me, Timmy, and my 2 oldest kids at the spring game or spring
Saw that.
practice,
Hmm.
and just very emotional and happy for him and guys like Greg Stroman. I've known those guys since they were in high school, and I don't take credit for their success, but I've been part of their journey around their families, and they always took time to talk to my kids. And my kids used to train with Tim Settle when they were being trained by Raymond Washington up here in Northern Virginia, Prince William County. So to see him get a nice payday with Buffalo is great. Tyrod Taylor, we'll talk about in a second. I've told you numerous times on this show, I've known Tyrod and his family for years. He's a Hampton High crabber like me. I knew Tyrod when he was a youngin'. He used to see me play, but Timmy left your boys, man. And
I know.
I was like, I get it because the D line for Washington is loaded, right?
They
So I
are.
mean, what did you feel when you saw that? Be honest. What did you feel?
Oh, I was heartbroken. I was heartbroken. I was also somewhat elated for Tim because he gets to go play in Buffalo, which is a very
Mm,
good football team. It's a very good defense, and he gets to go play
mm,
with his former teammate in Tremaine Edmonds.
yep.
And I think he's going to get some more playing time up there too. He's going to be a big contributor for them, and they're going to need him to be. When it comes to what his role was on the now Commanders defense, right? The Washington
Oh,
Commanders.
that's right. That's
It's
right.
gonna
I'm
it's
sorry.
gonna get it's gonna take a while to get used to, man. Trust me. I'm doing radio in DC, and it's still taking me some time to get used to. And trust me, that's that's still all they're talking about, because Carson Wentz is now the new quarterback in town, and that's a whole nother topic that we'll have to save for another show. But Tim Settle he came up big in a lot of different spots over the first few years of his career for the Washington football team. Actually, I believe he won't have the distinction of playing for all three: the Redskins, the football team, and the Commanders. I think he just played for the Redskins and the football team, but close enough. We'll chalk it up close enough there. But you're right in that they've got so much talent there on the defensive line, specifically on the interior, man. I mean, how do you get playing time when you've got Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne sitting in front of you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, bro.
And he was good. Tim Settle, it's funny, he was all over their social media. Like, they just the camera loved him. They loved to follow. He was always in such good spirits. He always was funny. He was just great for that sort of thing. And I'm going to really miss that. And I'm sure their locker room is really going to miss that. It was, I think, despite his role maybe being less than somebody like a Brandon Sheriff, who also left the Commanders this offseason, it still concerns me a lot, because he felt like a great guy, obviously, and was important to the locker room, not to mention he was a good football player. But they can't pay everybody. And like you said, Timmy got a nice payday, and he deserves that payday. He deserves to go play for a good football team, which he's definitely going to get. And then when it comes to Tyrod, I talk about Tyrod's career all the time and what could have been, because the dude has made a Pro Bowl before. The dude has led a team to the playoffs before. And that's the crazy thing. The season after he goes to the Pro Bowl with Buffalo and leads them to their first playoffs, and I think it was about 15 years at that point, they cut him. The very next season. And, it worked out for them because they got Josh Allen now. But, Tyrod's, I look at that. He's had some bad luck, some really bad luck in his career. I mean, it ends up being a good decision, I guess, because they get Josh Allen. But I mean, how often does that actually work in a team's favor, where you cut a veteran who was good like that, and then you draft a guy out of Wyoming who,
well, D, like, you're right. Like, and you mentioned bad luck. He got his lung punctured with that needle
when he was with the Chargers, right?
Yeah,
and then he got hurt when he was with the Browns, and Baker Mayfield took over. There's one more stop too in between there that I'm leaving out. It'll come to me here in a second.
He was with Baltimore, the Ravens. But he was a backup there to Joe Flacco.
Yeah,
he was with the Ravens. He was. With
I think
the
I'm
Browns.
just thinking of Buffalo. I think I'm just thinking of his time in Buffalo.
Buffalo. He led them to their first playoff appearance in almost like 19 years or something. It was something crazy and bald. But I mean, we're not going to be biased, even though we love Tyrod. Josh Allen is an animal. Whether you play fantasy football or you appreciate the game, Josh Allen is he is special. He's an elite talent. And Cleveland, I felt bad for him because he got hurt against the Jets on that Monday or Sunday night game. I don't remember. It was a Monday night game, I think. And Baker came in, and Baker, Tyrod's more reserved, more chill. Baker was doing the nay and the whoa, and he was at Oklahoma, and he was known.
Yeah, that was the Hard Knocks year too.
Yeah, the Hard Knock, and everybody. The coach wanted to keep Tyrod in. The owner and the GM were pushing for Baker. I mean, and Baker's been good for them, although you never know. Like,
he just requested a trade today.
Oh, it was official. It's official.
It was official. He requested a trade. Who knows where he's going to end up, though?
Yeah, but he's got to do some soul searching, dog. Because at the end of the day, man, like you saw, he was passive aggressively holding, OBJ hostage. Like the OBJ leaves right away and has the numbers we expected him to have in Cleveland. And Landry, when you play fantasy football, you kind of can see the trends. Landry, I had him the year Baker was great, and after that, I had him, and Landry was terrible because he doesn't get the ball. But Tyrod, I think this time around, he may be the guy that unseats the starter, because Daniel Jones, you and I saw him 4 years at Duke. And that year, Daniel Jones and Mitch Trubisky got drafted. No hate from me. But I was like, bruh, how does Gerard Evans, who I know is better than Trubisky, not get a look? And Trubisky gets drafted. Then Daniel Jones, I think, was a good quarterback at Duke. He was good. But I never looked at him like, oh, yeah, he's a franchise quarterback. Because even if I wasn't a tech guy or I didn't watch the ACC, I never felt like he had the attributes that would get you over the hump. He had the physical measurables, and he's smart. He has the Manning approval, which
Mm-hmm.
helped. He had that Manning approval.
That's it,
And
dude.
yeah, I think Tyrod, we will see him finally get that shot that he had in Buffalo because the Giants need a quarterback. I mean, we talked about the Commanders, Washington. Oh, that sounds so funny.
I
They
know
need a
it does.
quarterback. But the only team in that division with a quarter, well, the Eagles have Jalen Hurts, who I like, and the Cowboys have Dak. But the bottom line is Tyrod can find a good home in New York. I think that may work out for him.
I think it definitely will. And it's funny because my dad texted us, he texted us the deal about Tyrod, he's going to New York, but still happy for him. And Andy, my brother, Andy, my brother, he texts back, he goes, he's probably going to get some decent playing time too, because they're just about over Daniel Jones up there in New Jersey with the Giants. You're right. We watched a lot of Daniel Jones, and I was going to say it, and you took the words right out of my mouth, man. I think he got some of the benefit of the doubt because he was under the tutelage of David Cutcliffe, who coached the Mannings, and people probably just assumed that with his NFL body, because he very much looks like an NFL quarterback, and he's not bad. He doesn't turn the ball over, so you feel like you can, a good coach in the NFL can really, get a lot out of him, and maybe that's still true because the Giants haven't exactly had a Bill Belichick there coaching their football team recently. They've kind of had some clowns, if I'm being honest, right? But I think it will work out for Tyrod. I think he's definitely gonna play at some point this year because Jones is not gonna get the job done, and Tyrod has really, he's a guy that doesn't turn the ball over, but a lot of people would say that he doesn't take enough chances downfield, and that timidness is some of what has held teams back from, signing him to longer term deals over the years. But I'm happy for him. By the way, we touched on all of his teams. The only one we didn't bring up was the Texans, which is where he's coming from.
That's what it was, the Texans.
Yeah.
And he had that one really good game where he threw for 200. He had to run, and then again, some stuff happened. He got hurt, I think. Yeah.
Well, and the Texans just stink. I mean, you talk about that's one of that. I don't know between them and the Detroit Lions, which franchise is worse. And Houston has actually been to the playoffs, and so it might seem like absurd to mention those two franchises in the same sentence. But think about the talent that's gone through Houston, dude. I mean, Mario Williams. I'm going back now, right? Mario Williams. JJ Watt. They had JJ Watt, D'Amico Ryans, Andre Johnson, DeAndre Hopkins, Arian Foster. I mean, I'm thinking of all these great players, and they've never made it out of the wild card round. What does that speak to? They've had bad coaches, and they haven't done well to keep teams like that together. So hopefully Tyrod leaving that organization, does him some good.
So look, real quick, I want to touch on before we wrap up and get to our legacy spotlights, and also touch on the Virginia Tech spring practices. Just got a text while you were talking. We were talking about the NFL and Tyrod and everything. Devante Adams is going to the Raiders.
Whoa!
Yes. Hold on. It's right here.
My group message is blowing up too.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Mine is too. Devante, that's what I'm looking. I'm trying to find. Here it is. Devante Adams to the Raiders for 2 picks. Yep, 5-year deal.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh man. Aaron Rodgers is gonna be so mad.
Did he sign his deal, Aaron? He signed it?
I think so. Yeah, I think he's locked in. Dude, what are they gonna do? My dad said that maybe they'll go after Jarvis Landry now from Cleveland.
Not the same.
It's definitely not the same. Devonte might be the best receiver in the league right now. You can make a case for a few guys.
You definitely can put him in that debate, and I would probably pick him. I mean, look, and see again, man. Aaron. The reason why I take Brady is because Brady is a diva too. All those guys are divas, but Brady plays the game a little bit differently. Because Aaron is so honest and so matter of fact and condescending, and he kind of ostracized the media, where if the media and the fan base aren't on your side, that's the worst thing. You can't beat the media. Ask Barry Bonds, ask Allen Iverson, ask Terrell Owens. You can't beat the media because they create the narrative. So the reality is Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback. He only has one chip. He's been to the NFC Championship a few years in a row. And like I always try to tell people, we can give Brady and Aaron and Josh Allen, all these guys, and Mahomes credit. But you better look at like you just so eloquently said, the GM, the picks, the O line, the receivers, the culture, the
Mhm.
culture. At the end of the day, Green Bay has all of that. So it's not just Aaron. And you asking to be the highest paid player, like 50 million guaranteed, that means you're taking money from Devonte. Where Brady, that's what I mean about being savvy, he restructures his deal. He, even though people don't realize he's restructuring, he's still getting paid. It's just when the money comes in. I'm not a capologist, but I know the
Right.
game enough to know that he pretty much is going to get money, but he makes it so his guys get paid. Because Brady knows I got to have Gronk. And you better believe if Edelman and them still had gas left in the tank, he would have got him to Tampa too. So at the end of the day, man, Aaron, you might be lonely. What's that song?
Yeah.
Lonely. I'm just.
Akon. Yeah, Akon. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, bro. That's what I was thinking too. Man, this show
Bruh.
just took a wild turn. Wild. Dude, I can't stop thinking about, okay, so now what's they're gonna are they Raiders, I guess, are gonna hang on to Derek Carr, right? They're not gonna pair Devonte Adams with a new quarterback. So I would think that
No.
Derek Carr is gonna stick around. Think about how crazy the AFC West is going to be now. The Broncos have Russell Wilson. You've got Devonte Adams going to the Raiders. They were already competitive last year. They kept the Colts out of the playoffs, and they were kind of on the fringe there at the end. Didn't end up making it, but that division is nasty. The AFC West is nasty. You
And
already got
how
Herbert and Mahomes.
Herbert and Mahomes. Herbert. Oh,
Yeah.
I love Herbert. I love the Chargers. Yeah, Tyrod had to deal with him too. Tyrod. If you follow Tyrod career, minus the Texans, you better look who they pick because the team that picks the quarterback gets a future stud. Because Herbert, Josh Allen, well, Baker you can debate, but I like Baker because
Yeah.
Baker's funny to me. He's just I don't know if he's elite, but um, let me just say this too, D. If you are a sports fan, you hate the NFL because Tom Brady overshadowed Selection Sunday. Then, in the midst of all these games that are on while we're recording this show,
Yeah.
you have Devante Adams going. So it's like breaking news, and it just sucks. NFL never. It is the premier sport because it's the best reality TV show in America. It gives you drama, it gives you pain, it gives you sadness, it gives you comedy, controversy. I mean, it's March, and we're talking about Devonte and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, free agency's always been big in the NFL the last decade or so, but it just keeps getting bigger, man. And it's not over. It's not
I
over.
know. I
Because then
know
you have
what.
the draft. You have the draft coming up too.
Dude, yeah, once this new period opened up, I mean, good lord, it's like the floodgates came open because
Yeah, yeah.
you're right though, you can't escape the NFL, man. You can
No,
only hope to contain it, and you can't.
no.
It's
Yeah, it's
crazy.
wild, bro. Like, yeah, but real quick, man, we're not gonna touch on the spring game, man. We can because that'll get us going, man. I'll just say this, man, really, really quick, man. Brent Pry is building something real special. I'm just going. That's a tease. I got some more stuff we'll talk on. By the time we have our next episode, the spring game will be closer. There'll be some open practices and scrimmages, man. So, if you're in town, check them out. My guy Pearson and I, we checked in with each other, man. There's a lot of, I think the energy. I think that the spring game this year might have 60,000 people. It's just the emotion, the build up. People are finally excited again. It feels like we just tore down the Berlin Wall. Like just because the 6 years of just frustration, no access, no availability, no personality, man. Now, we were like in flowers in the attic. We were trapped in the attic. Now we're out. You know what I'm saying? So with that
Well
being
said.
said, we'll touch on that, man. But I do want to do our usual. We have our legacy spotlights. I'll go first. For those of us your first time watching or listening to us, Victory Life is all about leaving a legacy, and it's not just about athletes. It's about people that we admire, that we want to recognize, whether they're educators, teachers, cancer survivors. I have two I want to shout out today. I want to shout out and give a legacy shout out to Diane Limerick. Diane Limerick is an educator. She was our trainer at Hampton High School for years, for decades. When I played there, Tyrod Taylor, Ronald Curry for football and basketball, all the sports, track. She and I share the same birthday. She just sent me some stuff in the mail for a fan of mine. I actually have a few fans to sign and send to her. And the guy was really excited. But she always checks on me, and guys like Elton Brown, the UVA Hall of Famer, one of the best linemen in ACC history. He was at Hampton High. I mean, you name anybody in that Hampton High program, you know about Diane Limerick. And she's just special. I believe in letting people know while they're here how much I love them and appreciate them. And it's just one of those things, man. You know, I want to shout her out. And another guy, or another person, excuse me, a man that means a lot to me and a lot of Virginia Tech football players in the 90s, especially the late 90s when I was there, is J.B. Grimes. He was the great offensive line coach. He left Virginia Tech going into my senior year to coach in the SEC. Beautiful family, a man of faith, probably the best coach, arguably one of the best coaches I've ever played for and known in my life. Coached me, Jim Pine, Bill Connolly, Todd Washington, Derek Smith, Janelle DiNapoli, Jay Haygood. I can go on and on, but he is battling cancer. He DM'd me about a month ago, and he gives me updates. This is his third time battling cancer, and he is a tough guy. Let me tell you how tough he is real quick. We were playing Boston College my redshirt junior year on Sunday. This is when Boston College, again, it's always a battle with us in Boston College. They had a Hasselbeck at quarterback. I think they had like 3 Hasselbecks play quarterback there. They did. Like all the Hasselbecks went there. Right. And they had Chris Hovan, really good teams. Saturday 12 kickoff. We won the game, but around midway through the game, we're on the bench and we don't see JB. And the phone's passed to each one of us, the starting lineman. And the phone gets to me. He said, "Hey, now, I'm going to let you know I'm getting ready to leave. I'm going to the hospital. I'm having a heart attack."
Oh my gosh.
I was like, "What?" He said, "I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine."
Talking through it?
Yes, he's having a heart attack. And he calls all of us. You know, the phone that they pass around. I'm on the little red phone. I'm listening to him, D. And he's like, "I'm having a heart attack." He's real country, Southern twang and all of that. He was like, "But I want you to make sure on your pass sets, you keep your head back, keep your inside hands in, make sure you don't." I'm like, "What?"
He's coaching you as he's having a heart attack.
As he's having a heart attack, he said, "I'll see you later." Has a heart attack, goes to the hospital, and he gets discharged, and he's at home. He was out for a few weeks, and he came back. We saw him in the hospital. I went by his house, man. Even when he DM'd me, he said, "I love what you're doing." I sent him a Victory Life hoodie, some gear. He sent me a picture. He's, having surgery, getting chemo. He said, "I'm gonna beat this." So you got to make sure, man, hug your family, appreciate people. Whatever you're dealing with, man, you can beat it. Whether it's mental illness, cancer, health issues, financial problems, keep fighting, man. I just want to shout those 2 people out, man, because they mean so much to me, man. And you and I we are here because of people like them, So who you got for me, D? Who you want to shout out?
That was incredible, man. That was incredibly well said. And obviously my best to them, and hopefully they win this fight. Cancer is something that I feel like touches everybody's life, even though it's something that nobody ever wants to or should have to deal with. So hopefully that all ends up going well. But so since we're coming up, it's this time of year, so I think this is probably a good time. We're about a month away from the anniversary, April 16th, and so this year it'll be 15 years, which is pretty crazy to think about. And I believe the spring game is on April 16th this year, which is absolutely gonna be I would imagine it's going to be an awesome experience for anybody that decides to go, because they'll have all sorts of great events planned as we remember the victims of that day. 32 of them there were. But so there's a cool thing that happens every year, Dwight, that my uncle, who is also a Virginia Tech alumnus, does and has been doing every year since the tragedy happened. And it's just, they're a little organization called Hogs for Hokies. And my uncle Frank Salzano founded this this charity motorcycle ride is what it is. It's a charity motorcycle ride that goes at the end of April every year. And they go from different points in Virginia. My uncle lives up in Northern Virginia where I'm from. And then they've also got people coming out of the 757 though, as well as the Richmond area and some other places as well. And then they all just drive down to Blacksburg and meet around the memorial and, say a prayer, have a moment together, just stand there in silence, remember the victims of that day. And then they go and have dinner that night and, enjoy Blacksburg for a night. So it's a fun day of events. It's cool. There have been times over the years where the ride has been stretched out miles long, and it's just been really cool. And so obviously it's a great cause. It goes to the 32 endowment scholarship funds. All the proceeds go to that. If you sign up for it, you get a t-shirt, and you don't have to have a motorcycle, by the way. That's the most important thing to know. The actual date of the ride this year is April 30th. I had to make sure that I got the ride and the date right. April 30th. And they don't do it on April 16th because they don't want to take away from the campus events that are going on that weekend, of which there are always a lot. And I always remember one of my most powerful experiences as a student was being on the drill field at midnight when it goes from the 15th to the 16th, and standing there, everybody with candles, and even the Hokie bird is there. Just, it's a very powerful moment where, Hokies United really transcends words for lack of a better phrase. But it's a fun day. We usually end up getting Outback for dinner. So I think that's
favorite place.
I think that's what it is again. But I'll be down, I'll be going down April 30th. But like I said, you don't need a motorcycle. You could follow the caravan in a car. There'll be cars following them as well. hogsforhokies.org for more information. You can sign up and whatnot. So it's a great cause and great time to support the Hokies.
Oh man, well I'm glad you said that, man. Let's make sure if you're watching and listening, check out Hogs for Hokies, man. You don't have to be a Hokie either, man. It's for a great cause, man.
Yes, sir.
Like we talked about in this show, man, and talking about people battling cancer, people lost loved ones in that tragedy, on April 16th in Blacksburg. But at the same time, for those that are here still living, we still have our life. So let's appreciate each other, appreciate moments, whether, wins and losses in life, we can still come together and make a difference, man. You can donate your time, your money, your prayers. Make sure you do something positive. And like I say, every episode, D, this is the first time in a while. Like I say, every episode, to everyone listening and watching, man, we appreciate y'all supporting us, the Legacy Podcast, Danny and I. Catch Danny on 106.7 The Fan. Also, he does that show on the weekends sometimes. And also, make sure you subscribe to our channel on the Victory Life on YouTube. And like I say, every episode, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, make sure you have a great impact and you leave a positive legacy. Thank you.